I think we all know this. Our president is busy right now trying to complete what many would consider one of the greatest feats in modern time. That, of course, is making sure the radical regime in control of Iran doesn't get a nuclear weapon. Well, that work, which it would create a much more peaceful and safer world, continues. Democrats have been busy this week looking for an opportunity to smear President Trump. That's their priority. All the issues facing the country and the world, it's Donald Trump is bad for them this week. They are once again trying to use one of the latest tragedies in our country as a way to put it, simply put it, to make the president look bad. I'm talking about the shooting and killing of Minnesota State Rep Melissa Hortman and her husband. The same suspect, 57-year-old Vance Luther Bolter, also shot State Senator John Hoffman and his wife. The whole situation, obviously, tragic and awful. But according to the United States Senator from New York, Chuck Schumer, the blame can actually be placed on one person, President Trump, of course. Here he was yesterday.
This dangerous environment isn't spontaneous. It's being stoked, often deliberately, by the reckless rhetoric coming from some of the most powerful voices in the country. When political opponents are treated like enemies, danger follows. And that's what Donald Trump has done.
I mean, how cheap is that? You know, I was just talking about this last week. Anytime something goes wrong, Democrats try and lay the blame somehow on President Trump. Their party has turned into a nothing burger. There it is. It's nothing. I have to ask, when is the last time you heard from a Democrat anything about new policy or plans for our future? Something that's maybe America first and pushes our country forward in a positive way? I can't remember. All they do now is whine about how bad President Trump is and his administration, how bad it is. And then when they don't get their way, ultimately, they unleash paid riders into American cities to destroy them. Does that sum it up pretty well? I think it does. It's sick. And in doing so, they've become the party that stands on nothing policy related. It is about hate, anti-American, defending people who aren't even American citizens, and turning people, especially young people, against law enforcement. This report just came out of Nebraska, of all places, yesterday.
A 20-year-old man is behind bars after allegedly throwing a Molotov cocktail at a Department of Homeland Security building in Grand Island. According to a federal criminal complaint, the words "Kill ICE" were spray painted on a window. Cleaning staff later found what appeared to be a Molotov cocktail inside. Days later, several government vehicles behind the building were found with slashed tires. Surveillance video led authorities to 20-year-old Ulysses Martin, who was arrested.
It is their hate that has led them down the path of calling for violence, contrary to what Senator Schumer says. And no one is more guilty of that recently than the governor of Minnesota himself. That is Tim Walz. After the shooting Saturday, he was using much different talking points than he did just a couple of weeks ago. Here he was immediately after it happened.
This cannot be the norm. It cannot be the way that we deal with our political differences. Now's the time for us to recommit to the core values of this country. And each and every one of us can do it. Talk to a neighbor rather than arguing. Debate an issue. Shake hands. Find common ground.
Okay, now I agree with him wholeheartedly with those comments, but the problem is the governor was saying basically the complete opposite at the beginning of the month.
Because I called Donald Trump a wannabe dictator? It's because he is. It's because he is. Oh. The governor's being mean, and the governor's speaking out on that. Well, maybe it's time for us to be a little meaner. Maybe it's time for us to be a little more fierce. Because we have to ferociously push back on this. And again, I'll speak to my teacher colleagues in here. The thing that bothers a teacher more than anything is to watch a bully, to watch this bully and to stop it. And when it's a child, you talk to them and you tell them why bullying's wrong. But when it's adult like Donald Trump, you bully the out of him back.
Now, I think those are some pretty incendiary comments, don't you? We also can't forget about this. Former FBI Director James Comey and his social media posts heard around the world. 8647, the slang used that calls for the assassination of President Trump. That was pretty much overlooked by Democrats. In fact, mainstream media had him on their talk shows to talk all about it. Apparently, he didn't know. The former director of the FBI. Heck, even Chuck Schumer himself has used some pretty questionable language. Here he was back in 2020 when the Supreme Court was first considering abortion rights.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
Okay, so you know what happened after that? 2 years later, a man was arrested for plotting to assassinate Justice Kavanaugh. His name was Nicholas Roske. There's his picture. And Roske allegedly told investigators that after his arrest that the assassination attempt was in part motivated by the High Court's draft decision overturning Roe v. Wade and its potential expansion of gun rights. So hypothetically, you could easily blame Schumer then for that, right? He's the one who said justices will pay a price, but no. According to him, all the violence is President Trump's fault. Like I said, they'll blame him for anything. Remember the border? Like how just a few short months ago it was left wide open. I'll remind you of this clip from the former president.
The only reason the border is not secure is Donald Trump.
That's funny, right? Funny because Democrats don't have anything else to offer. The border, as we know, is now secure. Border Patrol agents didn't release a single migrant into the U.S. last month. That is a staggering drop after the Biden administration allowed 62,000 illegal crossers in the country of May of last year. I think what that really proves is Democrats wanted our country to be flooded with illegals, or whoever was actually running things would have stopped it, just like President Trump has. And I truly believe this when it comes to the border. The reaction from Democrats is nothing more than political theater to try and make President Trump look bad. They'll do it any chance they can, or when they would have done it when President Obama was doing the same thing. He was responsible for 5 million people being deported. No one said anything then. But now because it's President Trump, they'll destroy our cities because they're not getting their way. Democrats, like Congressman Eric Swalwell, is also posting ads like this onto his social media.
I had a really good time today.
Yeah, me too. I really look.
What are you doing?
She's coming with us.
What are you talking about? Who are you?
I'm your Republican congressman. Now that we're in charge, we're rounding up illegals.
She was born here. She's a citizen.
I don't care. She looks like one of them. But don't worry. When she's in prison in El Salvador, she'll have lots of company.
I mean, that's ridiculous and kind of funny, too, because of how absurd it is. You know, in a roundabout way, it's almost as if they're still trying to defend the illegal alien Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who's also an alleged gang member, wife beater, and human trafficker. They have to defend people like that now because it's common sense to have them locked up. But when you go against common sense like Democrats have, you wind up defending the opposite of common sense, and that's insanity. You know, when I was watching the LA riots go on, I did have a thought that we're kind of at a crossroads in America, and the crossroads is this. So you have one party that is America First, led by a president who's actually getting work done, delivering on campaign promises, and then we have another party, that's the Democrats, who, if they don't get their way now, they'll unleash hell across the country. It's simple. That's what they do. Until it gets to the point the National Guard has to be called in to stop it. Think about that. They did it back in 2020 during the Summer of Love, and they just tried it again. And I bet you they're going to try it another time when the moment is right. The decision we all have to make is when elections happen, which party are you going to put in place? Because I think we know at this point what each party has made themselves to be all about.